to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Pittsfield Town Council. Today is Tuesday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. I'm sure everybody's been hearing that today. Star Wars stuff all over the internet. And we're meeting by teleconferencing technology today because our county is in a yellow zone. So we're going to open the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag behind me, so you can see. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America
and to
the republic
for which
it stands,
one
one nation,
under
God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. And then we'll have a brief moment of silence. Thank you. Next up is adoption of the minutes of our last regular meeting, which was held on April 20th. So counselors, I'll look for a motion.
I know we don't have Tim tonight to make motions.
Okay, don't be shy. Somebody's got to make a motion so we can move on here.
Move we adopt the minutes of the regular meeting held on April 20th, 2021.
Thank you, Pete. I need a second. Brent, are you seconding? I see your mouth moving, but you're muted.
Yeah, I second it.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any discussion, counselors?
No.
I have a.
Go ahead, Pete. I think we're saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was gonna say, I had a note from Amanda. She couldn't make it tonight, and she just wanted to make sure that her full letter that she read got added to the minutes.
We don't put full letters into the minutes. We haven't put any in.
I was just asked to make that request.
Okay, so that's duly noted. So I can't recall having a full letter. There is mention of the statement and that she made a statement regarding here's the language here, the reasons and dating regarding the timeline. And there wasn't any discussion after that. So based on that, would you feel comfortable in voting to let it stand at that a statement was read, or would you like to table this item until Amanda can be here to more expand on that? Anybody have feelings about that one way or the other?
I'll go with just, go ahead, Jason.
I think she just wanted it noted that she read the longer letter and to have it on record. That's all.
So are you comfortable voting on this as it is tonight, or would you like to have it tabled until a meeting when Amanda joins us?
I'm fine with it.
I'm
Okay.
fine with just noting it.
Yeah, it's clear that she read a letter, definitely, that explained out things from her point of view.
Pete, what would you like to do?
That's the reasons for.
I'm fine.
Okay. I'm fine with it noting that there was a letter read as well. There wasn't any discourse afterwards to dispute any of that, so I'm comfortable with that. All those in favor of adopting the minutes as presented then, please say aye. And we do need everybody to vote tonight because there's only 4 of us.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye as well. Jason, are you an aye?
Yep, I said aye.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, next we have presentations, congratulations, and introductions. Community and economic development grants and activities. Catherine?
Yes, thank you. I'll give a little brief update. We're pleased that project manager Chip Haskell can join us this evening. He was scheduled to attend another meeting and made arrangements so that he could attend our meeting due to the importance of the Main Street council's received a copy of the draft concept plan built upon the informational session that was held back in March. We sent a copy of it out to all the participants. We had an email address for it. We just had one that we're trying to track down. For the public, the intent of the sidewalk project is to reconstruct a sidewalk on the north side of Main Street between Central Street and Somerset Avenue to achieve accessibility requirements, to increase the safety of the pedestrian traffic, and to improve aesthetics. There are significant alterations to the existing conditions, certainly from the condition that's there now in the sidewalk. The design will be reviewed by Chip in some detail, and then we'll see suggestions, questions, and answers that would be helpful. So Chip had given us some details of what he had done, taking all the information. So I'll turn it over to Chip to explain out his plan.
All right. Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, no, happy to be here tonight and run through this. It's certainly an exciting project, and I certainly our expectation is vast improvements in that area for sure. I think this can really be a really interesting part of town if done correctly. With that said, geometrically, I guess as far as kind of an overall like looking down on it, there's not a whole lot of major changes, I guess. Let's say, there is a slight change in the size of one of the bump outs, but the overall footprint of what we're proposing, for the most part, is remaining unchanged. Am I able to share my screen?
Okay, let me mark that so you can do it. All right, we're all set to go.
Right, thanks. Now, if I can pick the right screen, there we go. Everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So first of all, this is far from complete or anything like that. It's really is just sort of a concept plan here at this point. Just trying to take the feedback that we received at the initial kind of meeting and discussions with DOT and trying to get this as a first cut and make sure we're headed in the right direction and everybody's kind of liking what they're seeing here. So there's definitely things we need to add here. I can see a few things that I know I need to address, but in general, the overall concept is that you'll see this is the bump out that I was referring to a moment ago, where this is currently the line that is the curb line. Looking to shrink that up a little bit. That does buy you a parking spot there. And it's just a little bit more symmetrical facing Honeywell. It allows kind of these crosswalks to function a little bit better. Shifting this crosswalk slightly to come out, to that bump out buys you a little bit more room for this parking space as well. Obviously, we'll be adding lights and things like that. We have not gone to that level of detail. Really, the purpose of this concept plan, aside from kind of using this as an exhibit for tonight's meeting, the other important piece of this was to have this presented to the DOT to make sure that they didn't have any major issues with what the overall extents of our proposal were. If we were gonna blow this bump out way out into the middle of the road, obviously that's going to be an issue with DOT. So they just need to make sure that what we're proposing makes sense with their plan and meets all of their requirements. So that's another sort of parallel purpose of this plan. We do have see if I can run down through some of these improvements. We are showing a concrete sidewalk for right now. I think that was my understanding of the direction that we were all looking to head based on the initial meeting. I do think we are going to look at, when we get into the bidding phase, to go with maybe some alternates for different types. That was the desire that was noted. So I think the base bid, though, we do want to look at concrete. And then maybe have options for pavers and an option for pavement, to at least get some pricing on that. Then we have kind of the hardscaping stuff and electrical and things like that, and that's where we're going to have to look into this a little bit closer. And it's we've got certainly some decisions that need to be made relative to lighting and as you get into this bump out, you've got electrical equipment for a lot of different things in that area. That I'm not sure if I don't believe that's in our scope necessarily. But we're going to have to get that figured out for sure. Somebody needs to, we're going to need somebody to get a hard look at that. And Catherine, we should probably talk about that offline for sure. But in general, we've got this pedestrian actuated crossing signal here. Those are the ones that have the button on them and then they start flashing like crazy. There typically is one on both sides of the road. So we'd have another matching one right here. For right now, as I mentioned, we haven't really shown much in the way of lighting. That, you know, we'll end up certainly replacing these lights at the very least, maybe adding a few more. We've got to kind of, again, that's kind of one of those that we've got to talk through. Removing and resetting the granite curb that's out there to the extent that's practical. Some of that stuff comes out. Historically, I've seen that stuff. It depends, right? It can come out nicely and it's in good shape, good enough to reuse. Other times it's just been beat up and it's broken and you're better off getting some new pieces. You know, certainly hoping to be able to reset that. As we sort of continue to head east, or sorry, north. This is the intersection here with Somerset. You know, we did hear some concerns relative to this radius. I'm not certain that this is something that we have much flexibility in as far as the overall size of this. It's necessary to provide protection for these cars parked on this side of the road so that when you have vehicles coming in this direction, they're protected there. So that bump out serves that purpose. It also serves the purpose of protecting that vehicle from this turning traffic. If you've got a long, 18-wheeler coming through, they could pretty easily clip that car, and this is a deterrent to do that. We can talk about making some of this mountable, but again, kind of the point there is for it to be an obstacle. You have kind of these competing interests for sure. But so I guess the answer to that is we haven't really changed anything in that area. And I don't know what if anybody has strong feelings in that regard. But overall, the intent here is to end up with a consistent curb reveal all the way down through here. As you know, as you get in front of Rennie's, this curb more or less disappears. Whether that's from repeatedly driving over it or from repeated overlays in the road is to be determined, maybe a little bit of both. But that really has no reveal on that curb right now. So we'd be looking to restore that, which would serve two purposes. Both for stormwater purposes, it's helpful because you have that gutter effect, and it also prevents Rennie's from using that sidewalk as a loading zone, which I don't think, from my understanding in our prior meeting, that was an area that was maybe a bit of a sore spot. So, but other than that, I think there are a lot of decisions to still be made. I think right now, my immediate goals are to make sure DOT is okay with the geometric sort of layout of this, and to get feedback from you all on kind of the general concept here. So, any questions on any of that? I kind of rambled, so.
Chip, are there parking spots in front of, like, just south of Pop-On Overs where there's that break in the sidewalk where there's a walk through to the municipal parking? Is there a parking spot in there? It doesn't look like there's one delineated.
Yeah, there's no line here. If let me see too. I can check on the old aerial.
I guess I'm wondering, why is it showing a break in the sidewalk when there isn't like a crosswalk there that somebody would be coming up and down off of, if we wouldn't have the sidewalk continue across and then just have that side, the west edge of that kind of slide down into where that other parking lot is.
So you're saying, why wouldn't this opening continue out down to here?
Okay, this is the opening by the bank drive-through then. It's not over
It's
on
not the one you're thinking of. Oh, you're thinking of this one down here.
Yes, I thought it was the other one down after Pop on Overs. Okay,
I
that
believe
makes
that's
sense.
that one. Let me
They
just
need to
look
be
here
able to
though.
drive over that and not drive off a sidewalk, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so this one does not have a break in the sidewalk, to your point.
Okay, I was down further, I was confused where the map was.
Okay,
Could you slide down to the Rennies and just explain that a little bit?
in
That
this view or
sidewalk.
the plan view?
Well, you said the plan view and you were saying something about how that was gonna make it so it couldn't be loading in and out of there.
Yeah, so actually I'll pull that back up here.
I was gonna say that was more helpful with the picture that.
Yeah, that's not it though. Okay, so the picture you can sort of see back here, right? You've got maybe a 4 or 5 inch, what we call is it's called a reveal, and it's basically how much of that curb line is exposed. So in this case, you're looking at this, you might have 4 or 5 inches through the majority of this sidewalk, and a standard for what we would do if we're doing something brand new is, or if you're putting in a new curb, you want something close to like a 6-inch reveal on that. Over time, as you resurface these roads and overlay these, you don't reset the curbs when you do that. And so you add pavement to that and that reveal shrinks over time. So I think that's probably why you're down to this 3 to 5 inch reveal in a lot of these areas, due to just repeated overlays over the years. When you look at an instance though, closer to Rennie's, you've got basically nothing in a
Okay,
lot
I
of these
see.
areas.
Yep.
My suspicion is that it's a combination. You've got some of this that is due to overlays, but I suspect, Rennie is using it as a loading area. If they're driving trucks over this constantly, I can see this settling and pushing that down as a possible culprit or the reason why this is different than the rest. Unless that was set lower initially to serve as a loading area, I don't know when that was installed, if that was part of the process. But
So basically that section in front of Rennie's is just gonna go back to what the other sidewalk is already.
correct, we're going to have a
Okay.
little bit of continuity here and make
Yep.
this all be a 6-inch reveal.
Yep.
Because I think, again, I may be wrong here, but my understanding, from our initial call was there was certainly some desire to utilize the space, whether it be for dining or, just benches and things like that folks could gather in. And obviously if that's being used as a loading zone, it's not real conducive to that. And we want, if you're going to promote, pedestrian traffic in that area, you want to make it safe. And that's where having an actual curb is helpful in that regard. So if you have something that's mountable, like basically like what this is, it's really not a safe condition to promote pedestrian traffic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Chip, the reddish pinkish brick type
Yep.
surface there, is that the stamped concrete that we had talked about in the meeting that would be preferable to actually just concrete surface?
Yeah, that is not. Those are just brick pavers.
Those are pavers, okay.
Yep. Stamped concrete there's a lot of options you can do with that, and you can color the concrete. You can then apply a certain stamp that has a pattern on it that can look like any number of things. You could have it look like a flagstone type, pattern. You could have it mirror what you're seeing here. There's a number of different options there. But basically it's just a mat that gets laid onto the semi-cured concrete, and that pattern gets stamped into that concrete.
Well, those pavers seem to have held up really well considering they're getting driven on pretty frequently.
Yeah, they certainly can. And I've seen it go bad though. I will say, pavers, if done well, can hold up. They are a little bit difficult for snow removal and things like that, just because they heave unevenly, in that regard. So with concrete, at least it's a monolithic piece that tends to at least move evenly. Whereas pavers, if you're going to do it right, you basically pave it first and then put the pavers on top of that with a, so that they're not in a soft sub base, basically.
And do we have the option of reusing those pavers somewhere else in town? Like in one of our parks as a path or something like that, where we could be able to reutilize those materials?
I think they're certainly still usable. Whether you have a space for them, I don't know.
So on both edges of Main Street at the Central Street location and Somerset Avenue, we dug out the pavers. We were able to save a lot of them, but some of them could not be saved. And so we have a collection of some of the older pavers. And so the new ones we put in held up very well. They didn't heave or anything. But after many years, the ones on the edge are starting to break up, just like these have.
Anybody have any other questions for Chip?
I was going to note on the traffic signal lights, I have contacted the appropriate parties and offices at DOT several times, and I will continue to contact them. The traffic signal lights that are down by Honeywell Avenue are the ones that are part of the contract with the new lights that were put in, I would say 15 years ago at the intersection of Somerset Avenue and Main Street. The lights used to be much lower, and then the logging trucks would come through and pull the lights down and drag them behind them, and then DOT would come and get them put back up again, and then they would malfunction, and then the whole thing would happen over again. So they put in some nice big ones. As part of that arrangement, they said that the little ones by Honeywell had to be part of that arrangement. So we asked them to check them out and told them how they had malfunctioned. They went down and reviewed them and said that they were fine and would last for a long time. The next week they were broken, and that was it. But we had signed the contract and they would not let us out of it. So I'm not sure how successful our discussions will be with DOT, but we will persist in finding out if we can make any different arrangements there. And then we may need an addendum to your contract, Chip, to help us deal with that, or DOT may address a contract with us if we can get someplace. But definitely, if we're going to do this whole project, we need to do it right and get everything taken care of.
It may be something too. I've done enough of these to know that a lot of towns bring in, landscape architects as we get into this sort of piece where we're starting to talk hardscapes and features in these certain areas. So it might be something to consider here as well.
All right, very good.
And if you need references for that, I can certainly help with that.
That would actually be helpful. The only landscape architect I know have retired, and then DOT lends us their architect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, counselors, before we let Chip go here?
Nope.
Don't let me go too soon. I have another meeting at 7 that I was hoping to miss. So.
We appreciate you coming, and you're welcome to stay around and talk about Parks and Rec if you'd like.
Oh, well.
Question.
Well, thank you all for your time.
Yeah, if I could ask one more question, this will help Chip, but this will help us too. So in reference to the next steps, DOT had asked that at the beginning of May, we get a concept draft to them. And in their plan, we'll be able, how long do you think that we can continue to change the draft plan, Chip, in their schedule?
I think we've got plenty of time. I mean, I don't want to say that and have everybody kind of lose momentum, but DOT is slow, as we all know now, and we are not going to be the critical path item on this project. I can tell you, as far as the sidewalk is concerned here.
Because I would
Again, what's that, Catherine?
I would expect that we'll have some people give us some comments this week, but there'll be others that will show up in several weeks here with something that they'll want changed.
I think, certain aspects of this are certainly more concrete, so to speak, than others. I mean, the curb line is one that DOT is going to want us to decide on, before anything else, just because that ties in their design to ours. That's kind of the break point. Outside of that, it's really just needs to be done in time for the bid.
All right, very good. And that's not in a while here. That's a ways away, but I did want to hear back from Rennie's just to make sure they were included here.
Yep.
All right, very good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chip.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Yes,
Sure. Catherine, so that takes care of A and B, and then there's other grant projects.
yes, just to go on quickly, very quickly, the town's community development block grant project of $250,000, as we know, expires this year in the summer. And we have contacted the ECD, the Department of Economic Community Development, numerous times, and I'm going to be contacting them again tomorrow. We wanted to apply for, and I know it's a long shot, but to apply for the Northern Border Regional Grant to see if we could supplement the budget monies that we have for the sidewalk project to help out with the amenities and with the additional construction costs that are coming to play here. When we had put our figures together, and Shibro had provided some of the figures, this was going to be 5 years ago once this project starts being built out and is bid. And so pricing has drastically increased in the construction area, especially in civil engineering. So we wanted to apply for a Northern Border Regional Grant. I will note that I've finished a lot of major projects and extensive items that are going on, so I've really got to concentrate on that and just sit down and do only that for the next week because it's due at the end of next week. But we do not have a contract with the state beyond June 30th, and that may affect our grant application and have it tossed out. So I'm going to continue to call and see if we can get some results here, at least even if they can't process through the whole amendment, just a letter stating they're going to, that would be fine too. So we'll keep working on this. We've completed every other grant application that needed to be done, as well as the loan documents and some other items we'll see on the agenda. This is the only open one, which is the more difficult one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is meeting with Parks and Rec Committee member Lindsay Holstrom. I don't see Lindsay on yet. Ben, are you going to be standing in for Lindsay?
Yeah, she had a conflict. She said she wouldn't be able to get on any sooner than probably like 7:10, 7:15. But I can certainly cover, and if we have questions when she jumps on, not to delay. But
Do we want to skip over that and do council reports first and then come back to it so Lindsay can join us, or Catherine?
Let me note that I did get an email, and before the email went out, I saw on it that Lindsay doesn't believe she'll be back to town until 8 o'clock. So she said,
oh, okay.
Ben could cover this. It was something that just happened.
Okay.
Ben could cover this. She would greatly appreciate it.
All right, Ben, take it away.
What am I on the spot for? What am I covering here? Sorry, I called in for the other part.
Oh, okay.
Are we talking summer program, or are we talking rec director? What's on the agenda?
Safety plan. So the safety plan that we would have now with the yellow and everything.
Oh, okay, yeah. So really, the only adjustment going yellow, we were already complying with everything as far as the safety plan goes. The only adjustment we would make is we won't hold any competitions with any other towns until we're back in the green. And they reassess what's May 7th, whatever the day that is, Friday. They reassess, and I'm hoping we find ourselves back in the green on May 7th, but who knows? We'll see. So keep your fingers crossed for that, but we will not hold competitions with other towns until we are back in the green. Beyond that, obviously daily we're seeing changes. I was just down driving through the park, and obviously all the CDC guidelines, and Governor Mills has changed requirements for masking, and athletes are no longer required to mask on fields, and public parks are changing, so we're going to continue to mask and do those things that we said we were going to do until further changes are made. And if we do decide to propose a change to that, we'll come back to the council first.
Does anybody have any questions for Ben regarding that update?
So you're still gonna be requiring the kids that are playing softball and baseball that are out in the outfield to have masks on?
The last we talked, again, unless it changed today or yesterday, Lindsay is the most in tune with that and keeps me apprised. The last we talked, the social guideline mandates haven't changed. The only changes have been made at the MPA and high school level.
Well, there was no mask requirement outside. As long as you
That
could,
was,
as long as you could
maintain-
maintain the 6 feet. And I know other towns in their rec departments are not making the kids in the outfield wear them. Of course, when they come into the bench, they have to wear them.
yeah, then yeah, I'd love to, go with kind of the recommendations and be as flexible as possible. You get at this age group, right? They're going to pull it down, and then when they come in for a ball, they have to pull it back up when they get next to another outfielder. When they jog in, do they put it? Well, I think at this point in time, we're sticking with our current plan. We may reassess later this week and send something to the counselors. But at this point, we're sticking with the plan we have. We haven't talked to change otherwise since.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Any other questions, counselors?
I thought the plan was very, very detailed and very easy to understand. I particularly liked the email that goes out to all the parents.
Yeah, and that did go out. And we didn't hear any real pushback. There were questions, right? Just like Pete brought up, right? It's changing every day, and we're going to try and adjust. And if the CDC and the MPA says it's safe for 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that are more susceptible to the disease, then we'll certainly need to consider and look hard at that for the younger kids who are far less susceptible, and where it makes sense, and stick with the professionals' guidance here. So we're watching it every day, Pete. And there may be updates that yesterday or today that my quarantine self is not caught. So
Any other questions for Ben on this item? Okay, not seeing any. We're going to move on. Thanks, Ben. We
problem.
don't have any public hearings or old business, so we're going to skip down to reports. Council committees, Finance Committee. I don't believe we've met since the last council meeting. I think that's next week. We have a Finance Committee meeting. Right. Ordinance Committee. We met.
And we're going to have another meeting as soon as the last item that needs to be reviewed with details on the costs of digs that would take place on Main Street with the concrete, as well as other larger or wider roads owned by the state.
Right. So the issues we talked about, we reviewed the water use terms again. We didn't see anything else in there to really discuss, but we were kind of hung up on the sewer use terms. And that's where that digging issue keeps popping up as to whether who should have to dig where, when, and how. And so we asked for additional costs from that for Annalise. So we're waiting for that.
Yeah. Oliver Associates is working on that. We had at least tentatively resolved all of the different changes and language changes and updates since the 1970s ordinance had been in place for many, many years. And so the one last item in which there was a very good example given that we should focus for the digs on the sewer system when people have to go into the road and dig, which many of us have had to do, that rather than focus on the individuals and their financial capability, we focus on the road and its conditions. And so that was a very good idea. So that's the one item that's left. And then once we're going to have a quick meeting on that one item, which should be short. We'll then have a recommendation, and that will be coming back to the next council meeting to be set to public hearing on June 1st. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Recycling Committee has not met. They have a meeting coming up in June, and that's on the calendar on the website, I'm assuming, if people want additional information on that. Board and committee updates by town councilors and town manager. Catherine?
I would note, you had received a report on the airport committee meeting, which was excellent. There'll be 1 or 2 more meetings on the airport committee to put together further information for the town council, and also to look over the terms and conditions for the buildings that would be hangars that would be built at the airport, as well as other facilities, and to look over the economic impact of having the airport here in town, which is substantial, but we need to document it. And then the Parks and Recreation Committee had a great meeting last week, and they covered a whole variety of areas. Their spring sports is going well, just starting up, and the looking at summer camps, which we've talked about before. And so this will be excellent. And Ben is here, the chair, in case he would like to make any further comments.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that for now, Ben?
I can ramble all night, but I'll just say
Maybe
that,
not all night.
I've been to some of those. Yeah. They've got a really interesting plan put together, and some really creative stuff, and taking the guidance of some other towns who've really had successful programs, and they're starting small, which I think is good given the circumstances and the first year of trying it. And they have a kind of proposal plan written up. I don't know if that was in the packet for everybody, Catherine.
No, I hadn't received that in time for the.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that.
Okay.
But there is a proposal, like a 3-page draft written up, just to kind of lay out some of the high level stuff that they're working through. And she really did a good job looking at the finances associated with it, how it could bring money in and definitely not cost money, and getting kids kind of out and about after they really missed a year and a quarter of not doing a lot. So it's exciting.
Great. Ben, has there been any movement on the electronic system for signing up for rec programs yet?
Yeah, they have sent over we got some forms and stuff that we have to fill out. So it's quite extensive. It's 7 or 8 pages of many questions and preferences and stuff. So Jeremy and myself are kind of looking at that and going through that to get that kicked off. Catherine got the purchase order over right after we got approved at the last meeting, and the contract signed, I should say. And they said it's a 6 to 8 week setup, because they do really customize it for your town. So it'll have, your town integrated in the web address and the headers and all your preferences set up. And so it will be a chunk of the summer getting it really set up and off the ground, but we'd really like to hit the fall sports season with it stood up and running. So maybe at a later council meeting, we'll be able to give you kind of a show and tell or a demo or something.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm really excited, but I think having gone through it firsthand, trying to organize the spring sports season and get all the setup done, I am very excited for online digital registrations.
All right. Well, hopefully that will streamline a lot of work for you guys.
Yeah,
Catherine,
I hope so.
do you have any other committee updates? Catherine, did you have any other committee updates?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear that. No, those are the only committees that have been meeting. The ones that have been meeting very regularly. Thank you.
I did want to let the council know, I spoke with Jan Lux week and a half ago. The Bicentennial Committee had a meeting on, I think it was the 16th, and they pretty much feel like their work is done. They have a few things to wrap up, and so they're working on those items. But the question arose as far as we had said last year that we wanted to continue the spirit of the bicentennial celebrations and having the June 19th date be like a day of celebration here in Pittsfield, because that's the date of the founding of the town, and to have an annual type of celebration. And so there's some question as to whether, I kind of thought that the Bicentennial Committee should kind of morph into that, but I guess there isn't enough interest with that group of people. And the question becomes whether we would like to put the feelers out and have another committee formed for that purpose, of maybe like a history day or a Pittsfield Old Home Day or something along those lines to kind of keep the celebration of Pittsfield going on a yearly basis. And I wanted to know just kind of what councilors thought about that. Ben, you have your hand raised.
I can wait till this one. I said one more thing on the Parks and Rec question, but I can wait till this one's done.
Okay. I'm not getting anything here.
I'd be
Catherine?
good with that.
I was going to note, I think it would be a great idea. It's usually when these things change their focus, it's usually a different interest. People will have a different interest. And so there are other people out there that really like history and would love to have a history day. Whereas the group on the bicentennial who did such a wonderful job, like the different events and activities and everything that they planned out. And so I think that that would be a wonderful idea. We could do some posters, Facebook postings and everything, looking for, to look for a Pittsfield Day, history of Pittsfield and things like that.
We're getting a little short on time, so I don't know if this would be able to be pulled together for this year or not. Pete, you said something, but I didn't quite catch it.
Oh, I just said I'd be okay with what you were suggesting.
Okay.
We could even do some activities that would just be, quick items that families could do. So we could do something, but I wouldn't see any large events or anything.
It'd be fun to do a town scavenger hunt or some type of town centric activity that happened each year at that time. Maybe like a town picnic, like a Pittsfield picnic in Manson Park, where we encourage people to come down and have a family picnic time or something. Maybe we can get the concert series to start a month earlier and have a concert that whatever that weekend is closest to the 19th, to kind of encourage people to gather in a safe way, but also celebrate Pittsfield being Pittsfield, something like that. But okay, so maybe we'll put some feelers out as far as doing that. Ben, did you want to skip back over to the rec question or the rec comment that you had?
Yeah, it was just a request of Catherine, maybe. At the last meeting, we had talked about cleaning out a bunch of those buildings and some old materials. I did get a count of 61 helmets to be discarded. Just you would ask for a count on those, but I did go through the other couple buildings and filled a bunch of barrels with just trash and stuff over there. So I don't know if we can get the public works folks or somebody to either meet me over there or give me a call and just tell them what it is. But it was a good full load, truckload and a half of just dump stuff. And who ultimately are they the ones that kind of go in and keep an eye on those and make sure they're cleaned out? Is that the rec committee? Does it fall somewhere in between?
In the past, it's been the rec committee, but you're doing exactly right. When there's a major clean out, Public Works will help with that. But the
That's
items are identified by the recreation people.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that the concert series has been planned for this summer. Jan and Barb have been working really hard on that, and the concert series is listed on the Facebook page for the Hawthorne Park concert series. And Catherine, if we could get that linked and put prominently on the website, the town website, and start sharing some of that to the Facebook, that would be a great way to get the word out about the concert series. They have some new acts coming this year that haven't been here before, so that'll be interesting and something new for people to listen to.
All right. I usually receive something from them. I hadn't received anything, so I'll go looking for it.
Okay, I'll let them know too to send that along. Okay, and then town manager's report. Catherine, do you want to just go over the update portions of the items?
Yeah, so it's a very long report because so much is going on. So I will just hit items briefly here. And there are some new items. Number one, our Healthy Maine COVID-19 grant has been closed out successfully. And so that has worked out exceptionally well. We're now on our second order of items and we see how expensive everything is. So we were very fortunate to get that grant last year. Number two, later on the agenda is our Healthy SV grants for the library. Congratulations to our librarian who will be joining us a little bit later after her class is over with. She's received 2 grants totaling $6,000, and we'll explain those out later. Number 3, Efficiency Maine Small Municipality Lighting Retrofit Rebates. We've just received our approval of the rebate program, and the total rebates are $6,834 that the town will receive back. The total town share is $13,367. Payback is different for each building, from 1.42 years for the public works garage to 6.32 years for the municipal building, most of which is the fire station. And so while the payback period is long for some of the buildings and the rebate is less than what we have to pay, this will be energy lighting that is more efficient. It will be a better work environment for the employees, and it will replace what are original fixtures in both the sewer, wastewater treatment plant and the fire station. All the rest of the buildings that had been retrofitted before. Number 4, construct taxi lane apron T-hanger grant. I've never had so many Zoom meetings, and so quickly we had one that we were told we got to get on the Zoom, and it had 7 minutes to do that, and we were on another Zoom meeting. So the bids were opened on April 23rd. We received 3 valid bids for the apron, and when we get to that item, we'll go through that in more detail. But it was discussed in multiple meetings that the town of Pittsfield would apply as soon as possible for additional Maine Department of Transportation grant funding. And lo and behold, in less than a week, we had received an amazing amount of money, which is listed later on the agenda. After several discussions, it was resolved that we would apply for the 6-unit hangar, with a 4-unit hangar as a backup in case we're not able to acquire additional monies. You can apply for anything that you want, but by the time you get to sign the contracts, you have to make sure that you have all of your money. So this has worked out better than we thought, but there still is a gap, and there's a discussion with the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation, like we did before, borrowing the money from the organization and then paying them back when the monies come in from the grant. So this will be a project that we'll talk about over the next several months until we sign an agreement once a grant is offered as to exactly the project that we're going to have. But we started out with the one that Maine DOT and FAA said to start out with, which is the larger proposal. Number 5, the stormwater controls grant project is starting up, and this has a massive culvert that takes all of the stormwater coming down from in town to the airport to go out to the river. And so lo and behold, the area that has drainage issues at the airport is the same place where the culvert is. So we're able to have that project taken care of. It's starting on June 1st. The total contract price paid for entirely by grants is almost $275,000, something we could never afford to do ourselves. The Main Street Sidewalk project, we talked about that this evening. I just wanted to note a few economic development projects. It's been quite hectic here. Projects left and right here. We have one of the last industrial properties that has a purchase and sales agreement signed for it, which is great. The business that is looking to come to town is a training business for people to train to utilize heavy equipment. And so that is relatively in the downtown area by the industrial park. So they're working on financing now, and we're helping them. We have commercial property that's been available. So we have a business that's looking for a location for a large IT department for approximately 6 months, looking for a commercial location. And we have hooked them up with a real estate agent with a really nice location, and hopefully that will all work out. That would be very good, not only for those 2 businesses, but also for the downtown and for a number of other businesses. The Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation is discussing having a meeting so that they can help out the planning board. Planning board is extremely busy with a lot of site plan reviews now, and they have reviewed the subdivision ordinance and talked about different changes, but it's been recommended by KB Cog that our subdivision ordinance looks really good and meets the requirements, but you know, there's other items that we're interested in having reviewed for that subdivision ordinance to help out with development. So that's something Peak is talking about working on. Number 8, a very interesting item is the town valuation for the 2021 tax billing cycle. And of course, we're estimating, and that was a lengthy discussion we had during the budget process, knowing how complicated this was going to be, left the evaluation as is for the 2021 tax billing process. Our assessing contractor's been out. They've looked at the 2 new large plants in town. They've indicated this is going to be quite an extensive exercise, but they've made a lot of strides with that. So they're working on the valuation. It's going to be a while, but they've made some good progress and have a lot of pictures and everything. They've started putting that valuation together. The personal property review has just started. There are lengthy lists of personal property, amazing lists. A lot of that personal property was purchased with a federal grant. The assessors have been told that it's owned by the federal government. So that all has to be sorted through to see what can be taxed and what will not be taxed, and what personal property under the law changes that took place in 2010, 2011, what is no longer taxed as personal property. Number 9, a mowing contractor, our new mowing contractor. Is Steve's Landscaping. They have indicated, looking around at the different facilities, that things should really be mowed. The bid specs that were put out by Public Works had the contract starting on May 24th. We'll never make it with the amount of grass that's growing. So they've offered to just go right ahead and start in. So we've said, it's wonderful, we'll do that, and we'll make that payment on May 24th. And so that will all work out, and we'll even it out at the end. So it's good to have a local company that grew up here with this initiative to go around and look at things and want to start early. We did make payment for a number of our summer seasonal staff to take their lifeguard certifications. And in doing so, they will be available to work for the town for the next 2 years, which is excellent. When this whole group leaves, we will be looking for a new group of lifeguards, but right now we have the same people coming back, which is excellent. We did want to have a training program taken by the lifeguards for the water safety instructor training. However, due to COVID-19 and some issues that have taken place, people were not able to attend that training, and it's the only one that's scheduled. We have received a bid for some surplus property that the town had 2 years ago. We had a sale, and we're talking about having another one, and lo and behold, a bid came in. So I'll check the resolution requirements and see if that's something we can accept right now, or something that we will need to bring to the town council. Unclaimed property on the state's listing. The town was listed for 2 items on the state surplus list, one of which is a small item, which a personal property tax payment was sent to Park Street, Pittsfield. Well, that address hasn't been used for over 20 years, and so it went back. And the people at the post office, who nobody is there who used to be here way back when, so they didn't know to give it to the town, evidently. So we have another payment that we will figure out. People were interested in the inspections on the town buildings, being the water treatment plant and the sewer treatment plant and the Public Works garage. I just received those like 2 hours ago. So I will look down through them and make copies for those that were interested. And there are many, many other items, but we want to get on to other subjects here. So I will post this on the website, and it's available. Councils all have a copy. But it's been exciting. There have been so many projects that sometimes it's hard to think of what we're doing. I will note that our code enforcement officer has said that he doesn't want to stay any longer. He had offered to stay this summer. once we found out that over 20 towns were looking for code enforcement officers. But he said that due to reasons beyond his control, he really needs to get done. So we're trying to figure out quite what to do there. We think that we've got things set up really good now with KB Cog so that they will do the findings of fact, and the planning board will have their second meeting without a code officer. I'll attend those from now on and work with them, and I organized their package and everything this time. So I think things will, work out pretty well there. Building permit wise, so far things have been all right, but we will continue to work on this. We did receive one application from somebody that does not have the training who would like to be a code officer. So we will probably meet with them and talk with them about that. But in this town, with the amount of activity going on and complexity, we really need somebody who has been a code officer before and has had all the training and is not just starting to learn the field. So we'll keep on working with that. Our alternate, Al Tempstra, has been absolutely wonderful. He would love to work over here, but he has 6 other towns and he doesn't want to leave them, without a code officer, and we certainly understand. So we'll just keep on and keep working on this and keep advertising it and keep calling the state to see if there's somebody that could be available. Thank you.
Oh, great, thank you, Catherine. So we'll move on to new business, order 21-07.
Order 21-07, ordered that the town council cancel the public hearing scheduled for May 25th, 2021 to adopt the quarterly and monthly rates for the Pittsfield Waterworks for metered customers, municipal fire protection, and private fire protection effective July 1, 2021, in order to allow for more time for filing.
Council to look for a motion.
I move we adopt order 20-07.
Thank you, Pete. Everybody else is on mute.
Sorry, my thing was screwed up. I seconded that.
Okay, thank you. So this is because we had to move our public hearing back because of the filing deadlines weren't met in time. Kind of a housekeeping item, because the next item is to reschedule the public hearing. Does anybody have any qualms about doing this? Any discussion on this? We'll just move right ahead. Okay, I'm seeing shaking heads. So all those in favor of order 21-07, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That will pass. And then we'll go right to 21-08, Catherine.
Order 21-08, set the public hearing on June 1st, 2021. Ordered that the town adopt the quarterly and monthly rates for the Pittsfield Waterworks for metered customers, municipal fire protection, and private fire protection effective August 1st, 2021, in order to allow for more time for filing.
Now look for a motion, councilors.
I move we adopt order 21-08.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Brent. Any discussion, councilors?
I merely separated those so it would be clearer when the order was on the agenda and people wouldn't question what was going on.
Great.
Thank you.
All those in favor of order 21-08 to reschedule that public hearing for June 1st, please say aye.
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 4 ayes, so that passes. We'll move on to resolution 20-18.
So we'd have to make a motion to take that off the table.
Did
First.
you want to read that first, Catherine, or just go ahead with the motion to take it off?
Very good. I'll read that. Tabled. Resolved that the town council sign a letter of support for extended producer responsibility for packing, being resolution 21-18.
I move that we untable resolution 21-18.
Second.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Pete. All those in favor of removing resolution 21-18 from the table and address it this evening, please say aye.
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 Okay. All right, so that is back on the table. So now we need a motion to address.
I'll move we adopt resolution 21-18.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank you. Okay, we have a guest this evening. This is an item that we put on the table because it was the very early stages of the legislation and we didn't really have a whole lot of information about it. And we have Chrissy, help me with your last name, Chrissy, is Adamowitz?
Oh, it's Adamowitz, yeah.
Adamowitz, okay, sorry. From the Natural Resources Council of Maine to speak to this issue. And Catherine, I think you probably have some more information for us on this one as well.
Yes, I'll be very brief. I provided the town council with the Natural Resources Council of Maine's Recycling Reform for Maine resolution, which was very well written, as well as a letter from the Natural Resources Council of Maine explaining that out. We also had some nice posters from the Natural Resources of Maine to support LD 1541. And there were several of those on different subjects here that explained out how this all worked. And I think the council has a copy of the bill, which was just posted on the state website at the end of April 20th, I believe. So they have all of that information, as well as information from Jody Brew, who owns a business here in town, Dental Lace, and has her distribution processing facility here. She wanted to be with us this evening, but had a class that's scheduled and so needed to attend that. Jody is originally from Pittsfield. She expanded her company, came back here to expand it in Pittsfield by establishing the distribution processing facility. She has a zero waste approach and has won many awards. She was aware that we have an excellent recycling program, and so was very interested in having the town of Pittsfield join several other communities in supporting this bill. And now that we have the language, we have this before us and are pleased to have Chrissy here to explain out the details on the bill. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I can just talk about it a little bit, or, I also have a PowerPoint that I could pull up if you want to have that. It's like about 15 to 20 minute PowerPoint. So just tell me what you prefer.
All right, what would people like?
I think an abbreviated version of the PowerPoint would probably be in order for tonight because we still have several items to go over.
Sure, no problem. I can pull it up and I can go through it relatively quickly. And, we can sort of skip around a little bit on it.
We're all set to share the screen.
Okay, yeah, let me make sure the tab is up for you. There we go. Okay. My screen is freezing a little bit. All right, there we go. I think we're back. Okay. So everybody, my name is Chrissy Adamowitz, and I'm the Sustainable Maine Outreach Coordinator at NRCM. And NRCM is an organization that has been advocating for environmental policy in Augusta for over 60 years. We have this campaign, Recycling Reform, and it's for an extended producer responsibility law. We chose recycling reform because extended producer responsibility gets a little jargony. So everything I'm going to tell you today is on this website, recyclingreform.org. So if you can also email me, but you can find all of these resources there, as well as the ones that Catherine forwarded to you. This presentation broadly covers sort of the sources of Maine's recycling challenges, the policy known as extended producer responsibility, and the things that towns are doing to show their support. This slide, the first two slides are environmental in nature. I don't know if you need me to cover them, but rest assured that recycling is the right thing to do because it's great for the environment, it saves resources, and it actually is more productive for jobs, because if you think about it, sending materials to a landfill or an incinerator, that's sort of a one-way street on a dead-end road, right? Those materials just go to die, but recycling, requires jobs. It requires people to keep those materials moving throughout the markets and systems. For those who care about climate change, we used an EPA tool to figure that, if Maine reached its goal of recycling 50% or more of its municipal solid waste, it'd be like taking 166,000 cars off the road. So another environmental benefit that's really important. Our recycling challenges in Maine and in the country, in the United States and around the world really started in 2018 when big countries like China decided that they didn't want to be a dumping ground anymore. And the short of it is that, China and other countries in Asia were taking our recyclables and really with no questions asked. And, a lot of municipalities, a lot of states, a lot of countries got used to this. They were sending them overseas to countries that really couldn't manage them because they didn't have the infrastructure. And in 2018, China said, we don't want to be a dumping ground anymore. And that really sent worldwide ripple effects. And then at the same time, there was growing awareness of the plastic pollution crisis. And part of that is because these countries didn't have the infrastructure. We saw it again in 2020, where global markets were upset because of the coronavirus. And Maine's recycling rates have never really been very high. They peaked at 40, but that's a kind of a questionable number, and they've been falling ever since. I put this slide in because most of our waste is packaging. About 40% of our waste stream is packaging, and that's a little bit synonymous with recycling, because if you look in your recycling bin, most of it is product packaging. So it's a little bit synonymous. You also see paper in there, but we're really going to focus on packaging, and that's what LD 1541 does, is focus on packaging. The way we do recycling right now is very problematic. What municipalities see is that they're overwhelmed with the cost, and they're unable to provide consistent recycling programs. And what a lot of environmentalists see is ocean pollution. But under the surface is that the people who are making all of this waste don't have any responsibility to help us manage it at the end of its life. That means that they can produce wasteful and unnecessary packaging. They're free to put whatever labels they want on it to sell it. So that contributes to a lot of greenwashing and confusion. And then ultimately taxpayers, you and I are 100% responsible to pay for the system, but we don't have the tools we need to fix the system. And there are a lot of volunteer committees, I'm on one in my town, that work really hard to try to educate their neighbors and their friends and businesses about this problem, but it's so complex and it moves so fast that we really don't have the ability to fix this problem here down at the bottom of the food chain. And so this, we've got kind of a negative feedback loop where we've got varied access between towns, between what can be recycled and what can't be recycled. That contributes to confusion and contamination, which can contribute to cutbacks and closures and high costs. So it's really a negative feedback loop that we have with this current taxpayer-funded system. Enter extended producer responsibility. It's a type of product stewardship law that requires product manufacturers to share in the responsibility of the safe collection and recycling or disposal of their products and packaging. Maine has 8 product stewardship laws on the books, so we're very used to doing this. Some examples are paint care, mercury thermostat takebacks, and e-waste recycling. So it's a common way of dealing with hard to manage products, and the Department of Environmental Protection has identified product packaging as one of those products. So that's why we're advocating for EPR. This is basically how it works in a nutshell. Brands, the legal brand owner of a product, so like Pepsi or Nestle, chocolate chip cookies, Chips Ahoy, those brand owners pay into the state fees based on the packaging they introduce. And so this is where all of a sudden this, the state and stakeholders can put pressure on those brands to actually introduce materials that are recyclable in the first place. Those fees go to a new stewardship organization that's contracted with Maine DEP. And it's they're sort of the missing middleman. They're the coordinating body for recycling in other places. And that would be true here too. And then they would redistribute those fees and compensate you for recycling the waste that is being created by these brands. And it's really a new way of looking at it. we're all, you know, as consumers and taxpayers, we're often told that we need to reduce our waste. But if you really think about it, when you go to the grocery store, it's like, what opportunity do we have to reduce waste? There's very few bulk items. There's really almost no opportunity to reduce waste. And you really have to really rearrange your life to reduce waste. You know, it takes a lot of effort. So we need it to be convenient in order to reach those goals. So, you know, I like the way it flips the responsibility and says, you know what, municipalities are offering the service to brands to manage all of that waste and that they deserve to be compensated. And then those funds can be used in LD 1541. It's written that you can use them however you want because it's a reimbursement for a cost that you already expended. But, you know, we hope that towns use them to increase operations and infrastructure for recycling and public education and increasing access to make recycling really the best that it can be. I said product brand owners, and here's a sample list of the types of brands that pay in other countries. This is really common in other parts of the world, and I'll show you a map of where it's common. But this is just to give you a sense of the types of brands. These laws really target those big brands that can afford to pay fees up front based on their packaging. And this is just a sample list of 500 companies that are easily recognizable here in Maine that pay for Canada's municipal recycling programs. The DEP estimates that this will save taxpayers $16 to $17.5 million annually. And how it would work for you at the municipal end is that you would, you know, register with that stewardship organization that would crop up. And, you know, you would have to submit data on your recycling programs, and you would be required to offer recycling, you know, the full suite of recycling in order to get those reimbursement payments. Municipalities would be grouped into like municipalities. So based on your size and sort of, you know, the access of recycling in your communities. And your annual recycling payments would be on a median per ton basis, and for non-recyclable packaging on a per capita basis, because we don't want to incentivize towns to produce as much trash as they want. You know, we don't want to pay per ton for trash. We really want to make sure all parties involved and participating in this program are working towards making recycling the best that it can be. So that's sort of how it works for municipalities and things that you would have to do to get reimbursement payments. And just a note about how this increases recycling rates. These laws are well known to increase recycling rates well above that 50%. You know, especially across Europe, they have recycling rates in the 60 and 70% because they have had this law for so long. But first and foremost, it incentivizes packaging made with recyclable material. So upfront, those brands are going to have lower fees, you know, if that material they want to use is easily recycled by you at the end of its product life. You know, it helps towns increase the recycling of more material types. For example, my town in Brunswick right now, we can't recycle glass because of the cost. But if we had this law, we might be able to start recycling glass again. So again, increasing that number of material types, you know, foster recycling system infrastructure improvements. A lot of downtowns wish that they could offer recycling bins that, you know, where their tourists are mingling and where their restaurant businesses are, but they can't afford to offer those recycling bins in those locations because of collection costs, but this would cover collection. And so you could potentially increase that access. And then ultimately, we know that more people will recycle when it's more convenient. You know, it's very easy to throw things in the trash. And so we need to make recycling just as convenient as throwing things in the trash. You know, this is just some more examples of how this affects packaging. Again, that fee structure is used to incentivize the things that we want. You know, first and foremost, you know, it disincentivizes that waste. You know, there are other pieces of the law that say, you know, that would put pressure on companies to reduce basically the volume or the weights of their packaging so that those packages fit the product better. You know, we've all gotten a package in the mail that's in a giant box, but it has a tiny little product on the inside. So in our we as taxpayers, we have to bear that cost. It really adds up. So this law would help us address that. You know, I said earlier that greenwashing and consumer confusion is rampant. This tag is a plant tag that I got last summer, and it's a perfect example of how brands put misinformation on their products that cause us contamination and cost us money. This tag has the number 6 recycling symbol on it, and it says "Go Green." This tag is 100% recyclable. Place it in your curbside recycling bin, which is totally false. It's plastic, and so it'll contaminate paper. And brands love to put on their packaging information on what's technically recyclable, so what somebody could recycle in a lab somewhere versus what's practically recyclable by our municipality. So it would give us, as a state, the opportunity to actually affect those things and, you know, take our future into our own hands, really. You know, these laws have been proven to be more resilient around the world. You know, it helps municipalities weather the whims in the global markets. I think I covered that pretty well. So here's the map for EPR around the world. This type of law started in Germany in 1991, and it quickly started to spread across Europe by 2003. By 2050, provinces in Canada adopted it, Brazil has it, provinces in Australia adopted it, and China has declared that they are going to try to adopt this by 2022, and these other countries are coming online too as we speak. There are 11 other states looking to adopt this law this session too. You know, Oregon, Washington, Connecticut, New York, Maryland, they're all looking to adopt this law as well. So it's really the way of the future, and Maine will by no means be the first place in the world to adopt this type of law. Usually by this point, counselors and other interested parties are wondering, well, how does this affect Maine small businesses? And what's common around the world is that there is a small business exemption. So there's really 3 categories of businesses that a business could fall into with these laws. And that's true of LD 1541 as well. So there is a small business exemption. So if you're a business making less than 2 million in total gross revenue, or you're making less than 1 ton of packaging, or if you're a franchisee, you're exempt. For franchisees, their parent company that's responsible. So they're totally exempt. This law, you know, they don't have to pay attention at all. In British Columbia, you know, I put this little stat here just to point out how this really targets those big companies. In British Columbia, the wealthiest 5% of businesses, so again, like Amazon, Unilever, fund 80% of their program. So it really leans heavy on them because they're really introducing the most waste into our communities. You think about the volumes and volumes of waste that are on the shelves that are supermarkets and Walmarts, you know, those really far exceed what our local businesses are putting into the waste stream. The second category is a flat fee category, and those fees are low, and they are tied to the amount of waste the business is putting into the community. And that range is between 1 and 15 tons of waste. So if you're a business producing that amount of waste, you will fall in that category. And if you are meeting the max, if you're putting 15 tons of waste into Maine's waste stream, your fees won't exceed $7,500. So still pretty affordable for a business producing that much waste. And then there's the third category where you're all in. All those big brands you saw, they would be all in. And those fees, you know, they would have to tell the product stewardship organization what they're putting into the waste stream. And those fees will be calculated, you know, on a case-by-case basis. You might be wondering about consumer prices, and we've done a lot of research on this question because it's important to us as well. And there are experts who help companies comply with these laws all over the world, and they tell us that there isn't really any evidence that costs are passed on to consumers. And the reason they cite is that price is complex and that EPR laws alone don't affect price. Geography, local economies, consumer behavior, you know, consumer price sensitivity, those things affect price more than these laws do. The cost to producers is very low. So when you ask every single brand to participate, who qualifies to participate in this, you get thousands of brands. And, you know, if our recycling programs cost $16 million, that's actually not very much money to these very wealthy brands. When you've got thousands of them working together. So cost to producers is really fractions of a penny. I've heard that in cases when they do choose to pass it on, they might pass it on to luxury items where consumers are already expecting to pay more. This screenshot I have included here on this slide is actually for Nova Scotia, because as I said earlier, Canada does this law on a province by province basis, and Nova Scotia is a province that hasn't passed this law yet. but Quebec has passed this law yet. And so their Federation of Municipalities, which is like our main municipal association, they're advocating for this law precisely because their consumers are paying the same prices as consumers in Quebec, but Quebec taxpayers don't have to pay for their recycling programs. And then also EPR has been shown to save companies money. And this is 2 examples of how that happens, because companies get design help because they have this product stewardship organization helping them reduce their costs. So they get design help that design help helps them save money and also protects the environment. So in Belgium, L'Oreal is experimenting with refillable containers. So that brand is saving half an ounce of plastic every time. And that is, their fraction of a penny that they save. And so they don't have to pass that on. And this one in Italy, this was a curtain rod accessory brand. And they were able to fit 80% more on one shipment because they got design help. And I don't know how they missed that in the first place, but they got that help and were able to fit 80% more on one shipment. So that's an efficiency there that they were able to save money on. Okay, so let's talk about main bill. The big news is that the public hearing has been scheduled for next Monday. So it's coming right up, and I really hope that Pittsfield can show their support. We've heard from important players that municipal voices are going to be the most important voice at the public hearing. So people like us, NRCM, we're not going to be, as impactful as you guys, because this really is about you guys and compensating taxpayers for recycling programs. So I urge you to plan to, testify in support if you can, and if you decide that this is something you want to testify on. It's at 9 a.m. on Zoom, and I can tell you all about or send you information about how to do that. That's really the big news. Towns are adopting these municipal resolutions as well. So there's the one that we crafted in partnership on the left here with Maine Municipal Association. And that just has all of basically the context to go with the statement of support. Some towns were less comfortable with all of that. And so this is an example of what Topsom adopted. And it's basically a 2 or 1-liner that says, we support the spirit of EPR for packaging. And both resolutions support the concept of EPR, just because, with the legislature these days dealing with COVID, we don't want to tie it to a bill number because, if we have to carry it over next year, we don't want to have to ask you to do this all over again. So it's not tied to the specific bill. It doesn't hold you to anything. If this law were to pass, it would be optional for Pittsfield to participate. So, if you decide later on you don't like what this law would do for you, you could still fund in your recycling programs through your taxpayer payments. So that's what towns are doing. We have 26 towns representing over 280,000 Mainers who've already adopted these laws, and these are on the Recycling Reform website. I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, knock on wood, that Freeport votes in favor tonight. Bangor is also in process of voting on this, so there are other towns in the works as well. And hopefully there's some activists listening in. We do have a petition. You can always sign our petition too if you want to show your support. This is our adorable mascot, Boxy. You can follow him on Facebook and Twitter for updates. And that is the gist of the presentation. Thank you so much for listening.
Well, thanks, Christy. Counselors, do you have some questions or discussion for Christy?
So how many other states have signed on to or are looking at doing this? I thought you said there was like 11 other states, but there's nobody that's actually passed it yet.
Right, so other states are trying to pass this at the state level, 11 other states, and I could get you that list if you wanted it. There have been attempts to pass this at a national level as well. So there, I think awareness is growing. A lot of people just had no idea that this is the way recycling is done in other places around the world. And so, awareness is growing, and as more awareness grows around the state and around the country, I think more and more states are going to go for it.
So I think to me, the intent's good. I tried searching today to try and find opposition or a con. There's pros and cons to everything. So I like to know both sides.
Mhm.
when I'm signing on to something. So that's something I couldn't find. Is there anything that you're aware of?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it asks businesses to pay for municipal recycling programs. I think Maine small businesses are going to be well protected. And we actually have a business sign-on letter for Maine's businesses that want to support this. And Jody Bro is somebody who helped me craft that letter, because she understands that there is a responsibility that businesses have to helping consumers reduce waste. There's a lot that businesses can do to reduce waste so that consumers don't have to buy it. And so she's one that has been great. We got Allagash Brewing Company to support it this week. And the founder told me, you know what? It's not fair that we're putting all this waste into Maine's towns. And so we want to take responsibility. And they are an example of a brand that is all in. They're going to have to pay the full fee. So I think there are a lot of businesses who aren't quite there yet. And so that's the con, is that there are businesses who don't understand the impact that they could have. On the flip side, our taxpayers are footing the bill, and they don't have any way to reduce that waste upstream. And we really need these levers, because Maine's towns are struggling to keep their recycling programs all over the state. We also, there is we're just being overwhelmed with packaging. And this really ties into plastic pollution as well. So there's that aspect of it as well. So it depends on where you sit. I think a lot of businesses are coming around. We have 13 businesses who've signed our letter of support. Some big ones, like I said, Allagash, Patagonia, Toto & Co. Jody signed on, GoGo Refill. There's a number of coffee shops that have signed on. So the industry is still saying that they can't do it, but it's tough to rationalize, because like we have evidence that you're paying for other places, and so I don't, I think they're coming around, but it's not all in yet, that's for sure.
Brent, do you have any questions? No? Okay. Jason?
No, I'm all set.
Okay. I guess I'm looking at this as kind of like how it lines up with our values as our town. I mean, we're one of those towns that we actually process recycling for other towns because they don't have facilities. But at the same time, that creates a revenue stream for us, but it also creates additional wear and tear on our equipment, because we're processing more than what our town is generating. And it's something that we talked about a few years ago when we talked about our recycling rates, is not to have our fees be just at the bare minimum of what we need to charge to cover our costs, but also have those fees be generating income so that we are able to replace that equipment and to fund some of that. And I believe we've done that. And I think that any type of legislation like this that would help bring more revenue in for a program that we're already doing. Donnie Shute is our transfer station and recycling center department head, and he does a great job with all of his reporting. In fact, I think he has reports that are due soon, because at the end of April, I think, is when he does the yearly reports. But he's already doing that reporting, so I don't see that this would put any type of additional burden on him to any great extent, at least, except for sending that report to an additional location. And I think that it would be beneficial for the town, as well as falling in line with we have we had a pretty active recycling committee. We're trying to get that up and running again. It's been kind of sidelined by the pandemic, but there's a lot of interest in Pittsfield as far as recycling. And I think that all of those things put together makes me look upon this very, very favorably.
I'll just note we have an amazing recycling program that has worked out extensively well over the years. And we actually, in some years, have received enough revenue to break even. That's hard to do now. But once you figure in the avoided costs, we certainly are making money when that's added in. But beyond that is the need to protect the environment. And when all this plastic comes in that we can't dispose of now or sell like we used to. Only the hard plastic that the toys are in is able to be sold well. Some of it we're told just to throw it away. We don't, but it needs to get out of the waste stream before it gets to the communities. And when you open up, a food container and you've got all these layers and there's one little tiny piece of food in there and the box was huge, something's wrong and it needs to change. So I think that this is great and something that we should definitely do. Thank you.
So Catherine, by us signing on, what letter and what's the wording going to be?
Yes, so we can either use the recycling reform for Maine, which is the long resolution set up like a resolution we would have, or
I
we
think I'd be more like a one-liner, like the Topsom.
do the one-liner just like Topsom did. That's my former community, so I know why they did it that way, and that's fine. We can do that too, which makes sure that we don't put the bill in and we put in the EPR, and we can make a 1 or 2 liner that indicates our support. I think either is fine.
I would be comfortable with either, but I think that the shorter letter definitely gives more options as far as whether, if it does get continued over to the next legislative session, then it makes less work for NRCM and the community, the organizations that are pushing it.
Well, I would definitely be for the shorter.
Jason, Brent, do you have preferences?
I don't, as long as if they're both effective, then it doesn't matter really.
I'm just gonna go with quick and easy, simple.
Okay. All right.
I have one question. The only question I have, there's nothing that really drives the individual homeowner or whatever to recycle though, other than his own self initiative. Because if you go down, lots of times you look, people are still throwing away even returnable bottles constantly. There's nothing that really drives them to recycle.
There's definitely, this is definitely one tool in the toolbox that we have to implement in order to reduce waste. I think what I see in my line of work is that a big reason that people don't recycle or are bad at recycling is there's a ton of confusion out there. Even myself, I consider myself an expert. I will find out something new that I didn't know. And a lot of that confusion is because messages change as well. Like I pointed out in some of my slides, that there's a lot of mixed messaging on packages that are actually either flat out wrong or they mislead. There's also lots of packages out there that look and feel like a recyclable material, but aren't. And there's also packages out there that are really high tech and complex. So they might be like paper with foil and glue and plastic all mixed in. And so, when you have all of that sort of ecosystem and no clear message and no central body communicating to the state of Maine, you've got people with all kinds, you might have one member of a household who is really passionate about recycling, but another member might say, well, I've heard this and this and this from you, or I've heard this and this from you, but I've heard this and this from my teachers at school, or I've heard that from, something different from my town councilors. They might just give up. So I think that the ecosystem is so complex. And if you think about everything on the grocery store, it is so unreasonable to expect our taxpayers and consumers to know where all of that stuff is supposed to go and to do it effectively. One analogy I like to make is kind of like driving. We have made roads so easy to navigate that you can make a split-second decision when you're going really fast, and recycling systems need to be the same way. The messaging needs to be short and clear and concise so that a consumer can make that decision really quickly, because nobody wants to stand over the recycling bin really debating whether a product is recyclable or not, right? People are busy. They just, and so they give up because it's too hard and it's too confusing. So I agree that there's more we can do to get consumers to recycle more. But I think we also have to give them the tools in order to do that right in the first place. So I really believe that the most impact can be upstream with the right messaging, and then also that money to effectively educate consumers, because right now Maine's education is really based on a volunteer basis. And so there are volunteers in our communities educating our neighbors and friends and families. And that's also not a consistent source of education as well. So I think we need to take it off the backs of taxpayers and actually look upstream a little bit more. And that's what this does. But you're right, it's just one tool in the toolbox. There is more we can do on all sides of the equation.
Okay, thank you.
Counselors, do you feel confident voting on this now? Yes.
It's just going to be a simple,
Simple, short and simple endorsement of the concept of extended producer, what's it called? EPP? What was that?
because I agree with the intent. I'm just not sure I agree with the bill.
So it would be the endorsement of the intent of,
Okay, I'm good with that.
okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this to vote, because we do have quite a few things still to address tonight. Resolution 21-18 was removed from the table, and we are agreeing to sign a short letter of support for extended producer responsibility for packaging. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. So that will pass. And Christy, we thank you for coming this evening. And also, please let Jody know, thanks for bringing this to our attention and doing work on this as well, and that we appreciate her as a Pittsfield business focusing on these issues.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, resolution 21-47.
21-47, resolved that the town council confirm the town manager's appointment for the part-time recreation director position in accordance with the personnel policy regulations.
I'll move we adopt resolution 21-47.
Second.
Thank you. Catherine has some background information in our packet about the search process.
Yeah,
And then we also have a name and a resume that was given to counselors this evening.
oh,
Do you want to talk about this a bit?
There was?
yeah, just for those that are in the, that are here. But I will go through that because we've received permission from the candidate to release her information. And we have Ben Hall here this evening with a recommendation. So basically, just to be very quick, the town had been looking for a recreation director since January 2021 in a tight labor market. There were 4 complete applications and resumes at the time that we conducted the first interviews. And then since then, during the process, another one came in, and then today another one came in, but we're done with the process here. 3 candidates were interviewed, 2 received interviews for a second interview. The second interviews involved the Parks and Recreation Committee. The first interviews involved the assistant. And as you know, the assistant to the town manager, the assistant to the office is learning the HR functions. And so she conducted the interviews with questions that I've used before. The Recreation Committee interviewed the 2 individuals last Friday, one by Zoom and one in person, and made a recommendation this Monday because they're trying to get this done so they'll have somebody on board. I did talk to that candidate and made the conditional offer of employment, and the individual had indicated that we could release her information and her background. So we have Ben Hall here this evening to give the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Committee to hire their selection for the Recreation Director's position.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, we got a couple representatives, Lindsay and Jenny from the rec committee, that were able to participate in the interview, and they were impressed by both the candidates. They called some of the references, and they went through the resume, and they talked to each member of the rec committee individually to get their biggest wants and needs out of the position, which we all kind of holistically agreed in a community like this, it's communication, organization, and reliability, right? above and beyond any experience level. It's about just communicating and making life easy for the community members and the participants. So with that being said, they had two good candidates, and they decided, do I say names now? I don't know how this all works. Do I say a name, or what do you?
Yeah, we can say Shannon's name. She gave permission.
Okay, so the group came forward with a recommendation of Shannon Peppard for the rec director position, and she's excited about it. Again, it was exciting to have two good candidates. That's usually sounds like that's something that we don't often run into. So, it was a long kind of debated decision, and she's excited. It will work well with the schedule. She's got great experience with the kids and the parents in the district. We look forward to getting her on board and taking some of this stuff off our plates.
So this position, as well as all town positions, has a 6-month probationary period. We made a conditional offer of employment to Shannon. Normally, we would have it all done by this period, but we're rushing to get this done so that the Recreation Committee can have some help as soon as possible. There will be a background check beyond what the Recreation Committee members have done, a financial background check, driver's license, criminal background check. These are all items that we've done before, sex offender registry. Again, all items that are required for positions and a physical based upon the job description. The individual has extensive customer service skills, working in the school district, connections with all of the teachers and knowledge of the children and how everything is set up, and a good schedule because recreation activities generally start after school is out. So that is very good. Long history of customer service and considerable more responsibility. The committee and the assistant were really impressed with the fact that Shannon is very organized, and that's something that will help the program to grow. If it's not organized, then it's very hard to move forward. And so we do plan to move forward and to grow the recreation department. So she also is a cheering leader too. So she is a coach for cheering. Thank you.
Comments, counselors, questions for Ben or Catherine?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of passing resolution 21-47 with the name Shannon Peppard, please say aye.
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 All right, so that will pass. Thank you, Ben, and the committee for all the work that you put in on that, and Catherine, as well as Kathy upstairs to find a suitable candidate, and we'll look forward to having that proceed forward.
Thank you.
Resolution 21-48.
Resolution 21-48. Resolved that the town council approves the assignment of the Curtis Air Inc. lease to Northeast Skywagon for the purpose of construction of a new airport hangar, and further that the period of time for the assignment shall be temporary in nature to not exceed blank months.
Councilors will need a motion to open discussion.
I move we adopt resolution 21-48.
Second.
Thank you.
Did we have a time to put in for the months?
We do now. At the time of the agenda posting, we did not. Caleb had advised 8 months would be necessary.
We need a to amend this resolution then with 8 months in there. Or can we do that with our discussion, Catherine?
Both could say you've got your first and your second could agree to the 8 months. You'll be all set.
Pete, you agree to 8 months?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Excellent.
So this is a little unusual type item and a few extra noises here. Basically, Curtis Air Inc. has just received a new lease from the town to build a new hangar on the M lot, which is further out. Due to reasons that involve the financial and construction of the new apron, it needs to be under the name of another company, Northeast Skywagon, which is Frank Woodward's company. And so Caleb, if you and Frank is on here too, could explain why we're doing this and what exactly you're doing. We'll have to have a written request in our records for this, the insurance in the liability along with the FAA requirements.
Yep. I don't know. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I know my internet connection isn't that good. But basically, you know, shortly after our last town council meeting, I started really working on all the finance parts of everything and trying to get the last pieces of that together. And a little bit of a wrench got thrown into it. And the best thing moving forward is to basically have the building built by somebody else like Frank, and then it'll be transferred to me afterwards. And Frank is on here tonight and he can help answer questions, but really the intent of it doesn't change. It's just a temporary thing. It'll be Curtis Air's building. At the end of it, it's going to be used for the same thing. I have spoken with Alfred Backrack. I'm sure most of you know him. He's working. He worked today on the agreement that will be, it'll be a request for an assignment of a lease, temporary assignment of lease for up to 8 months. Really at the end of the day, it shouldn't have any change on anything other than it's just embarrassing to have you guys approve something and then have to come back and have you reapprove something different. So I apologize for taking up more agenda time.
So basically, Fred Backrack is going to write up the specifics, which the town will have to put in its records, and then the building permit, the site plan review, insurance will all be under Northeast Skywagon until it's assigned back, given back to you.
Correct.
Curtis Air. Okay. Assignments happen all the time. So as long as we have the written documentation from an attorney signed by both of you, we should be all set with the FAA when they come for their audit.
Yeah. It's been over 20, well, I shouldn't say over 20 years, but close to 20 years since a new hangar has been built at the airport. And we're really, that's probably more like 15 years, I guess. But we're really excited. We have some really big years coming up. We got Chimbro investing a lot in the airport down here, and we have removed the old what we call down here the town hangar, which was built back in the 40s, and that's going to be the site where the new Chimbro hangar is going to be. And both Chimbro and I's construction projects are in front of. Are going to be in front of the planning board this next week. So we're moving ahead pretty steadily with all those aspects, and a lot of really good changes happening down here. It's really going to kind of change the airport. Like I've always said, be some of the best changes to help shore up the future of the airport, even if a company or even if my specific company isn't here. Some of the buildings are really old and we need better facilities. And these next couple of years are going to be huge steps. So we'll be in front of the town council more as changes happen.
Frank's hangar is wonderful. How does yours differ? Is it smaller or?
Yeah, so this one is going to be a little bit smaller than Frank's, and it's going to be, Frank's is a heated building, and this is really just going to be a cold storage hangar. It's just going to be wood frame with steel siding, that meets the standards that the town and the airport committee have put together for the airport. And it also obviously meets MUBEC standards. It's going to be all engineered, and it's going to be on a full foundation. And it's going to have a large hangar door on the front of it that's about 50 feet wide. So we'll be able to put planes in it. It's going to be the exact same footprint of the old, or as we call it, the old town hangar, which was built back in the 40s. It's 60 by 80. And it's basically just what we use to put airplanes in. And there's a big demand to put, or not a big demand, but there's a demand to put planes inside. And in fact, it's just a huge, it's something that all the airports are trying to work on, is getting planes inside. So
these are definitely exciting times for the airport. We got so many agenda items, and all the work that we've been doing is all coming to a conclusion here. So I think having you and Frank work together on this is great.
Caleb, what's the timing as far as the, do you need this lease agreement? Do you need us to agree to this evening so that it can go before the planning board on the next meeting on Monday for that to go forward with the new site plan and everything? Does this need to be in place for that?
Yes. Our goal is to start construction as soon as possible. And in order for that to happen, and in fact, this is part of my tail being between my legs a little bit here, and kind of just learning this process as I go, is that I actually submitted my site plan with Curtis Air on it. And then we started kind of figuring this all out, and we resubmitted it with Northeast Skywagon, which is Frank Woodworth's company. And so we're trying to get this assignment done in time for next week's meeting. And I'll have Alfred's paperwork all drawn up, so that when we go to that meeting and they ask who has the official lease on that piece of land, we're hoping to be able to say that Frank, or that it's at least everything's been put into motion for Frank, or for Northeast Skywagon, to be on that lease name, because the permit will be in his company's name, not Curtis Air's name. So.
Any other questions for Caleb, gentlemen? Anyone in the audience have any questions? I keep kind of buzzed through things tonight and forgot to ask the audience if they had any discussion for any of the items. I'm not seeing anybody pop in here. So thank you, Caleb. If we don't have any more questions, I'd like to go ahead and have a vote on resolution 21-48 with 8 months as being the term for the assignment. All those in favor of resolution 21-48 as discussed, please say aye.
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 I need an aye, Brent, or a nay.
Aye. Go ahead, aye.
There we go. Thank you. And I'll vote aye as well, so that will pass. Thank you. We heard you click on, but I didn't hear anything coming through. We're going to move on. Thanks, Caleb, for coming tonight and answering questions. And yeah, it's lots of exciting things happening at the airport. Resolution 21-49.
Resolution 21-49, resolved that the town council accept 2 grants in the amount of $1,000 and $5,000 from Healthy SV, and further authorizes the town manager and librarian to execute all required documents, including the grant applications, memos of understanding, MOUs, and any other necessary paperwork, and to expend the funds in accordance with grant requirements and town regulations.
I move we adopt resolution 21-49.
Thank you.
I second it.
Thank you. All right, Holly, the floor is yours. Do you want to talk about your grants?
Sure. Healthy SV actually came to me. The $5,000 grant, they want a place to share some information for people about substance abuse recovery, addiction. So they want something, it's funny, they want something that's public but private at the same time. That way it's a public place, but in a place where place within the public place that they can have a little privacy to look at all the information, which we have a place downstairs that's like that. So the money would buy like a kiosk. It would buy various books and materials dealing with the subject. It would buy like the little stands that go on to display all the items. And the kiosk itself, that's almost $2,000. So it's a very generous amount of money though. And then the $1,000 is to go towards our summer program, which we're hoping to have a petting zoo for an afternoon. And everyone is extremely excited about that. So, so that's what the 2 grants would pay for.
Questions for Holly, counselors? I am not seeing any. So congratulations on putting that together, Holly. And obviously Healthy SB has come to the right person to put those projects in order. All those in favor of resolution 21-49, please say aye.
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 Jason, were you an aye as well?
I was.
Okay, thank you. It didn't light up when you said something, so just making sure we got 4. That will pass. Thanks, Holly, for persevering and hanging in there with us for this evening.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, quick question. Jason and Ben, are you brothers?
Yes.
Yeah,
No.
we don't
That
look
says
alike.
no. Okay, just curious. Thanks.
All right, resolution 21-50.
Resolution 21-50, resolved that the town council accept the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, Airport Coronavirus Response Grant, ACRGP, number 3-23-0036-22-2021 for the Pittsfield Municipal Airport to not exceed $13,000 and authorize the town manager to execute all required documents, including the grant application, grant agreement, and any other necessary paperwork.
I move we adopt resolution 21-50.
You.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, Catherine?
So this basically is a grant similar to the grant that the town received for supplies. This one talks about operations and disinfecting airport locations, and basically it's set up for probably larger airports than what we have, but the general aviation airports have all been included. Set mark amounts are available for those airports, for those towns or airports themselves. And there is a listing of items that would be available for the funding. I've read out what our usual operations items are, and there's quite a few things that this could cover. I know there's been mention of doing more crack sealing. We'll have to get that in writing, that if we're going to do that, that we actually can, because I didn't see that listed. But if we do not spend all the monies, and I think we will, but if we didn't, you just basically fill out your final form and send the money back. You just don't get reimbursed for everything. You get reimbursed for what you spent. So this is a great opportunity for the airport to be able to take care of some of the operational costs.
Who's responsible for generating the plan?
All right, so that would be something that I would work on and Caleb would assist me, but there are also standard plans available that we can look at.
My question is it really worth the hassle? Because it seems to be a lot of stuff required in there.
There's a lot
And
of,
we're not really a commercial airport.
no, they tagged along all of the general aviation airports. If we find it's too cumbersome, we just simply don't ask for any reimbursement and cancel it out, basically. But we've been asked to get the paperwork back immediately. And when we actually applied for it, we were given like 2 days. And so I had to send it in really quickly. So that's why the language says to approve the filing of the grant application, the agreement, and any other necessary paperwork. So if we do find that it's cumbersome later on, I think we'll be fine. But if we did, we just don't draw down and say we don't want it, fill out the paperwork, and then never get the money.
I
So
think
there
you-
still is that option, even if we
Yes. Oh, yeah.
accept this, that we don't have to
That
continue.
option's available on any project. You just have to make sure that you do it properly. What will happen is if we wait a little bit, all kinds of plans will be created by other airports, larger ones and smaller ones, and then we'll have something to look at.
I think it's beneficial to do this if it fits within the time constraints. I think our operating budget for the airport is around $28,000 or so, and this is $13,000 that can cover some of those operational costs.
Very helpful.
Alleviate some of those additional costs with cleaning and sanitizing and things like that. So I see it as a beneficial, worthwhile thing to do.
So would there be another vote before we actually expended the money or decided to use the money?
No, this would be it.
This would be it.
But we would receive a copy of whatever plan was drawn up
Yes.
for using the funds.
Yeah, and if we decide that it's just too much of a hassle, then you'll be told that, and we'll just not ask for any reimbursement and just say we're done. Which you can do with almost any grant. This one is fine for that. But we've got just a short time frame. You know, we have to either say yes or no now, and then we'll proceed forward. They keep sending me the documents every day by this auto in the email, and actually it's caused so much issues with the email that you know, I can't open the other email, so I just need to get it out there. Either we're going to do it or not do it.
Any other discussion? Counselors or attendees?
No.
Okay, not hearing any. Let's go ahead and vote on resolution 21-50. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, that will pass. Thank you. And then we'll go on to 21-51.
Resolution 21-51, resolved that the town council accept a grant from the Maine Department of Transportation, Maine DOT, of an additional $282,802 in funding, plus the original capital improvement funding allocation of $61,748.50 to total $344,550.50 for construct taxi line, apron, and T-hanger scheduled for 2021, 2022, and subsequent years if applicable, and authorize the town manager to execute all required documents, including the grant application, grant agreement, and any other necessary paperwork.
I'll move we adopt resolution 21-51.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
So this was part of our exciting, dramatic discussions on the bids that came in for the long-awaited airport hangar, which started approximately 14 years ago. We had to have all other safety items taken care of. The hangars are required to only have $600,000 of your allocations available. You do not get discretionary funding generally for an apron that's owned by a town or the airport. So this is a challenge to have enough funding for a project. And so along with this project is the taxi lane. That is necessary in paving. There was discussions about taking that out, discussions about having a smaller hangar with 4 units rather than 6. When the bids came in high, we contacted the Maine Department of Transportation, wrote a letter, and DOT wanted to help us get the hangar. They had some monies that were available from another project. And they came up with an additional $282,802 to put toward this project to help the town of Pittsfield to be able to have it. This happened all within a few days. It was like a miracle. It just, we were there at the right time and they liked the project. They're also helping the town of Sanford, which had high bids on a project too that really needed to go forward. I think also after all this time, they just want this project to be done. And so they wanted to help us. And so this one ties in with the next item. There is a gap that we'll talk about under 2152 and how we'll deal with that. But this is additional DOT money and absolutely wonderful. Yeah, it's a miracle.
So this resolution simply,
This is to approve all the documents, which include the grant application, which was the letter that went in on a Friday and was approved on a Monday. That was crazy. Grant agreement, which would be the paperwork that would come from the Maine Department of Transportation, and any other necessary paperwork, which at this time I don't think there is anything. I don't know if Caleb has anything he wants to say, because this was somewhat of a miracle here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can just help answer any questions, but it was a pretty big roller coaster ride. First, the FAA kind of made it sound like they didn't want to, after we had the bid opening, they kind of sounded like they were disappointed. And then the state just came through and said that they want to support this project, and they came up with the extra money to really help us move forward. So we feel extremely lucky. And again, this is for a T hangar, which is it's basically a hangar that would be owned by the town that has behind each door is a airplane. So the building's kind of built in such a fashion that it's kind of like T's, so that they're kind of nested. So you get the most amount of airplanes in a footprint. But it's a standard building that a lot of other airports our size have, like Old Town. The city of Old Town owns a lot of these, and they rent them out and collect the revenue from them. So,
Any other questions, counselors?
so we're gonna find out on the next, can we just know what's the difference that we're gonna be owing?
All right, so just to continue on, DOT came up with enough money to get us in the door. So on the next one, as you know, in the past, we borrowed money from the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation. So if this all went according to plan and worked out good, the state of Maine and FAA wanted us to apply for the 6-unit T hangar along with the taxi lane, which are in separate applications. We found that out on Monday and had to whip them in there. As I said, I think the word roller coaster is a good item for this. But everybody's trying to help us. So there would be a gap of $150,000 that the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation would have to front. And then, as in the past, we would pay it back. It appears, it sounds like rather than a 1-year payback, it would be a 2-year payback. There was another grant that would come forward, our allocation next year of $150,000. And when it comes forward, there could be a gap of 300,000 at that point if it doesn't come forward at the right time or the project goes forward too quickly. So we have to make the timing come out exactly right. The state and federal government wanted us to have $300,000 borrowed from the Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation. And we said, no, it's too much money. We'll go with $150,000. They did offer to, and they're going to try to find some apportionment money. We can contact our congressional delegate if we can come up with some other money. But at this point, there is no issue or issue with the charter or encumbrance if we send in a 6-unit T hangar with the taxi lane and the 2 applications. We put a caveat on the grant application that if the funding issue comes to be an issue, that before we make the award to the contractor, because we added in options. One option is the 4-unit, that we would downgrade the application to the 4-unit before an award is made. So if there is a funding problem later on, before the award is made to the contractor, and it sounds like it'd be next year, not this year, in which we might have another 150,000. So there wouldn't be an issue. It's all timing. So right now, this is totally safe and fine. There's no issues. But if we're going to sign a contract, the day we sign the contract, we have to have this all lined up. So it's all timing.
So what potential income would this generate?
So I guess I can help with that a little bit. We're probably looking at, let me see if I can put it into like a yearly.
Yeah, just looking for rough, I don't need, not looking for anything exact.
So you're looking at, about 20 to 25,000 or 23, something like that, that thousand worth of like yearly rent collections from the hangar. So, because the FAA says that we have to rent the hangars at a because we built it with FAA money, we have to rent it at a rate that's in line with other airports in the area. So we can't charge $600 a month if every other airport's charging $300 a month. So, and I think Old Town is like $325 or something like that. Last year was what their rental was on hangars, similar to this. So I suspect that's the number that will be in. So if you divide that out or multiply that out, that ends up being right around 23,000-ish. So.
Right.
And there'll be no running water to the building. It won't be heated. It's not going to be insulated. It's just a shell. Yep. Sorry.
So Catherine, or Caleb, the town portion that we're actually paying for this is $150,000, that gap amount. The rest of the money is either from our FAA collections or allotments each year or other grant funding from the state.
Well, the $150,000 that would come forward as a grant next year would be coming from the federal government. So we wouldn't actually be paying it. It comes to the town and then would be allocated toward the project. So our percentage this year, and one of the reasons why the DOT wanted us to go forward this year and not break this up and wait till next year, is that there's because we're still in the COVID-19 coronavirus period, the town's percentage or match is 0. Whereas next year it'll go to 5%, which still is not much. So we're not going to be spending our entire match. We're going to have a smaller match on the entire project. We'll be within our budget. So the match that we had allocated for the whole entire project was $44,000 and $45,000, $89,000. So basically it will not go above that for the whole entire project, if that.
So did I understand you or did I misunderstand you? So we basically would be borrowing this money from Peak and waiting for our match funding to come next year to pay them back?
We would pay them back. It may take 2 years to pay them back.
With the funding that we receive for the airport?
Yes.
Okay, I have a little less heartburn from that. Because of course, where I was going with this is the heartburn that I have is we're spending a lot of money down at the airport where a lot of residents don't have access and don't use. And we have a lot of roads in this town that are in very poor condition.
Yeah, we're
So that was my heartburn, but I have a little less heartburn now that I know that it'll be coming back through the funding that we'd be getting.
Yeah, it eventually comes back. So the town usually has, we used to have a 2.5% match for many decades. And then I think 12 years ago, it became 5%. But during the COVID-19 last year, we paid 0% on our grant match. So it was all entirely 100% paid for. The stormwater project that's being done is 100% paid for. And this will be very helpful. There still is a match that's required because part of the project will be next year, in which it goes back to 5%. As long as the timing works out and we don't get into a bind in which all of a sudden the grant comes forward too early, we have to do the project too early, then we have the gap of 300,000. At that point, we'll have to decide, do we want to do something else? Can the federal government come up with other money? And if they can't, we have to revert to the 4-unit hangar. The state and federal government are committed to trying to help us not have that happen. So this is all a timing thing. And they said, start out with the larger project. I mean, it's sort of a miracle we can actually even do this project. And one of the reasons that they're trying to help us so much is, one, we tried so hard. Second, we were the 3rd highest producer for a general aviation airport of the 23 general aviation airports in the state of Maine, because there were so many jobs and income that was coming out of the airport when a professional study was done approximately 10 years ago. Now, there hasn't been a study since then, so we don't know where we're at, but adding on these new hangars and all of the new opportunities and having more aircraft there will help us. But also, we would be a model project, because as with the new rules that came through a few years ago, unless a town or airport is rich, you can't save more than $600,000. And with the construction costs, I mean, just for us, our small project, it's, you know, once you do everything, it's like $1.5 billion. You can't save up the money. So there has to be a model way to do this, or there won't be any more hangars. So they're really trying to help us.
Is it possible to do this all this year, so that we don't fall into that 5% match next year if part of the project is carried over?
We have to get the $150,000 next year. We have to get our allocations in the future here, and they have to find like apportionment money for us.
Yeah. And
So
the other thing, Heather, is they also told us that the contractors are almost, 100% sure that even if, which this would never happen, even if the grant came through for them to place the order for whether it's a 4-bay or a 6-bay, they probably wouldn't even, there's a very small chance that they would even get a building slot, because the actual steel building is so far out that, yeah, as far as production on the steel building. So.
Any other questions, counselors?
So also with this, we ended up not borrowing, right? We got allocated money from another town.
yeah. So
When can they call on that? So could they call on that possibly next year and we wouldn't be able to pay back peak?
they agreed to when we would pay it back. So that fits into this overall equation. They can't get it early.
Yeah, the estate is in charge of a lot of that with their planning. So they pay really close attention because they know what the needs are at Rangeley. Did I say that right? Yeah, Rangeley. And so they're very much on top of when Rangeley can ask for their money back and when they're going to be able to get it back based on what our plans are. And that was a big part of our discussions during this whole time with the state and the FAA. So.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of moving parts here. It has to all line up exactly right. So right now we're simply accepting the money, the additional Maine Department of Transportation funding, which was wonderful.
Yeah, sorry, I got that a little off track, but I wanted to know the whole
Yeah.
picture.
It's all together. It's good questions, Pete. And then on the second one, we're approving the multi-year grant application being filed. We're not approving accepting it because we have to get this all worked out.
Any other questions regarding resolution 21-51? I'm not seeing any, so let's go ahead and vote on that one. All those in favor of passing resolution 21-51, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All did it at once there, and I'll say aye, so that will pass. And then we'll move on to 21-52, so we'll need a motion for that.
All right, resolution 21-52, resolved that the town council authorize the town manager to file a Federal Aviation Administration FAA airport grant application 3-23-36- to be assigned 2021 for construct taxi lane, apron, and T hangar, which may be a multi-year grant for the Pittsfield Municipal Airport.
So do I have to add the dash blank?
We won't know what that number is. We're told to leave that alone. And
Okay.
actually ended up with 2 grant applications, so we'll amend this too.
I'll move that we adopt resolution 21-52.
A second.
Thank you. All right, so we kind of, our conversation kind of bled over into this one. Do we have any other questions that we want cleared up for 21-52 regarding the application?
So it says the application has to be filed by May 1st, so we're changing beyond that now, right?
Yeah, they changed the date to May 3rd, so it was filed yesterday. Originally it was May 1st, and then FAA said May 3rd. And so the applications, we were told to break it up by the FAA. That was something new. So it was broken up. So there are actually 2 grant applications. So we'll just change the language a minor just to say 2 grant applications. The first one is the taxi lane. And the taxi lane was broken down to $223,972. So basically $224,000. And then we had the hangar, which is a 6-unit at this point, starting out with the larger version. That was a $1,307,727 application. So basically $1,300 and almost $8,000. And that was for the 6-bay nested hangar. So there were actually 2 applications that we were requested by FAA to break that down, to put in there that it was a multi-year grant, so we wouldn't have to go back and apply next year, and to put the caveat in there that we have we reserve the right prior to the award of the bid that we can revert to the option of a 4-bay nested T hangar. I'll be glad when this complicated project is over with.
Any other questions or discussion, counselors? Okay. All right, let's move forward on resolution 21-52 with the understanding that there will be 2 applications broken out as Catherine had described. And those application numbers will be assigned at a later date by the FAA. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And I'll say aye, so that will pass. That brings us to our last resolution of the night, 21-53.
Resolution 21-53, resolved that the town council appoint Ben Hall to the Manson Park trustees.
I move we adopt resolution 21-53.
I second it.
Thank you. Any discussion?
This was a request of the Manson Park trustees that handle Manson Park. Ben has been attending their meetings as a representative of the Parks and Recreation Committee for communication.
And this fills out the board.
Yes, there was a death on the board. Yes. Passing.
Is it a 3-person board?
It's a 5.
5.
I didn't realize that the town council voted them in.
I was confused on that as well. I didn't think it was associated with the town.
Yeah, there is a little section of all the old paperwork on the the trust, the will, and some other documents. Nobody has been voted in or sworn in to the Manson Park trustees since prior to my arrival, so back in the 1990s. Or even before that, somebody was, when the
Ha-
longest member was sworn in.
Happy to break the streak for you.
Right.
Any discussion, counselors? I think Ben will be a great addition.
It
My
worked.
first act is to move all Ben Hall items to the top of the agendas from now on,
I was actually going to mention that you're kind of sprinkled throughout, and if we can
every time.
reorganize the items as they come through before it's published, that would be great to put them all together. And not just for Ben, for any of our speakers that find themselves on multiple things. I think it'd be a great,
We're focused on Ben now, Heather. We're focused
all
on.
about Ben. It's all about Ben.
Thank you.
So we'll look at our rules on how these are put together. The appointments are always at the end of the grants or before then.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
But Ben's so popular, he's on the agenda so much, he should just run for council.
Well, there you go.
I'm a glutton for punishment, but not that much punishment.
So, any other discussion, counselors? All right, without objection, all those in favor of resolution 21-53 appointing Ben to Manson Park Trustee Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Say aye as well. So that passes. Congratulations, you're now married to the Manson Park Trust Committee. Thanks,
Thank
Ben,
you.
for persevering and hanging out with us tonight. Thank you, Caleb, also. Discussion items. Catherine, do we have any discussion items tonight?
I tried to put everything together in the town manager's report so that everything was all,
I was hoping you were going to say that.
yes, and I tried to skim through that too, because it was so long.
Thank you. All right, reports. Anyone in the audience have anything they would like to report to the council this evening?
I just wanted to say thank you for putting up with me. If I was more put together, I would have had this all put together on that first request instead of coming to you twice. So thank you for your patience and
No, it was okay, Caleb. Monday night, though, will be more interesting because we have to answer each of the questions on your application.
yeah, that'll be more fun. But
Well,
but
have
anyways,
fun.
thank you so much. So
Have fun at the planning board, Caleb. I'm sure it won't be the last time you are before them.
well, the airport's really growing. It's been fun to see. In fact, yeah, I don't even want to get into it, but thank you so much. So
A bright spot for Pittsfield for sure. So, all right, counselors, Brent, do you have any remarks you'd like to make this evening?
I'd like to make one note to the Chief Bickmore. There was a couple weeks ago, we had a family member that had to be taken by ambulance and he accompanied it. And he actually last week came by and followed up and checked on to see how that person was doing, etc. And it was a very kind gesture of act of kindness. And you don't see that very often. And so I wanted to thank you very much. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Pete, do you have anything this evening?
The only thing I had was, Catherine, I had a request from a resident that wondered when the recycling bin behind the town office was going to be coming back.
That would be coming back once the state changes the requirements for the materials to be touched with the coronavirus. There's indications that at this point we still cannot have the recycling bin so people can get in it. We've actually had people take things out and everything. And other materials were also put in there. So we're going to need to set up some sort of camera system to deal with that problem if it happens again.
So people that don't have a town dump sticker, they can still go up to the transfer station with their recyclables?
Oh, certainly, yes, and they won't be charged either. We can set that up for them. Yes, and many people go up there.
That was all I had.
Yeah, I'll be glad when it's back. That's an amazing resource for the community. And it also, and we're aware of this and it works out fine. People who come into town, who work here, will bring their recyclables in too if their community does not have items. So have recycling. So they come in and use that, they'll recycle all night, which is fine. And people going to work at night will go through. So we miss it, and hopefully it will be approved to have it through shortly.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Jason, do you have anything this evening?
I don't have any report, no.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple things. I want to thank Chip Haskell for coming and presenting about the sidewalk project again. It's nice to see that moving along. Hopefully the progress continues. Also thanks to Chrissy Adam from the National Resource Conservation of Maine. I think that her presentation filled in a lot of the gaps on the program that they were asking about. So I appreciate that Catherine was able to arrange for somebody to come in and answer those questions for us like we had asked. I think that it was, it helped us make a better informed decision for that, for sure. Also, thanks to everybody that sat in on the different items tonight. It's always helpful to have people that are involved in the resolution and order items to be able to answer questions. So thank you to Caleb and Frank and Ben for being available to answer questions. Catherine, I did have a couple things crop up from residents over the last couple weeks. Somebody had mentioned that the town received money to dredge Douglas Pond at some point to remove a sandbar in the middle, and it's back, or maybe it wasn't done at some point. Do you know anything about that?
No, the town has not received any money. There was a discussion that we would apply to the Army Corps of Engineers to try to get the big hump out of the Mill Pond. The Army Corps of Engineers came to town and we were instructed that these things would never happen. And the pedestrian walkway that people were interested in would not happen either. And so we should plan some small projects like boat launches and stuff, which we have and which are working. There could have been something back in the 70s or 80s, but there's no money on the books and I've never seen anything from going through all the financial records. There's nothing in the annual report. So I think that came out of, there was a discussion on that when we had the Little Mill Pond Committee and we did all the work at Fenler Park to create a park from the former trailer park location, and then the other projects, Stein Park and everything that we did at Remembrance Park and everything. That was talked about. So I think that's what they're talking about. There was never any money or any permitting allowed.
And since you mentioned Fendler Park, there was a discussion, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, there was a fountain that was there that had fallen in disrepair, and it was, I can't remember what we were going to do with it. Was it going to be removed for repairs and then replaced, or just removed because it was like donated by the family?
Yeah, it was a donation by the committee. The family liked it, of course, but it was never built properly. So it needs to be taken out. And if we're going to do that project, we need to do it properly.
Okay.
It was put together by several committee members over the weekend and they tried hard, but it did not work properly.
Okay. And the other question I had, we're on to water tonight. Somebody had also commented on the Heart of Pittsfield had shared an announcement about Bill Cunningham's presentation to the Bicentennial Committee about the boat launch update. And we're going to be seeing more information about that. They're going to be going for the planning board again regarding that project. And somebody had mentioned there's also a boat launch out on Sibley Pond that could use some attention as far as how it's degrading. I drove by there the other day and I was looking, and it looks to me like the boat launch on Sibley Pond is where the state had relocated Route 2 when they replaced the bridge. And then it's like it goes down and then it's covered with water and then it's the road again and then there's the water. So I don't quite know if they're talking about having a hard time launching in there, or is that an actual boat launch? Is it somewhere else?
Yeah,
And
it's-
is that our responsibility to maintain?
No, it's owned by the state of Maine. It's an area where people have used it as an unofficial boat launch. So when that whole area was rebuilt, we requested, and it was quite a fight to get it kept there, but the state did leave it there. It's owned by the state of Maine. We have no ability to do any work to it or fix it up. We can contact the state if it's washing out in areas, but it is unofficial, owned by the state. It's not an actual boat launch.
Okay, that explains a lot because I looked on the state has a website that catalogs boat launches of the state of Maine and it wasn't on there. And so I thought, well, maybe because it's owned by the town, it's not going to appear on the state site, but apparently it's not actually a boat launch.
Yes,
Just an access point.
yes, exactly. It's better than not having anything.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's the same thing if anybody mentions at the end of Peltoma Avenue, at the bridge, that is not a boat launch owned by the town. It's a piece of personal property where the landowner allows people to go down in there.
For kayaks and unmotorized boats. Okay.
Small boat. Mhm.
That's all I had for this evening. Thank you for everything you're doing up in the office and looking forward to finance committee next week. And then we'll go from there. Does anybody have anything else this evening?
I will note that I am so happy that the review of the online applications is completed. We've been through all over 1,000 of them and finished all that work as well as getting ready for the audit. And then now I can go back to a regular schedule, my regular schedule as it is, and work on other projects here instead of throwing them in on the weekend and the evenings and stuff. So this is very good. I'm gonna spend a couple of weeks getting caught up and then we'll have a whole bunch of new projects going forward.
Sounds very relaxing for you, Catherine. All right. Anything else this evening, counselors? All right. We'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Pete.
Second,
Thanks, Jason. Anybody opposed to adjourning? Not hearing any. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Yes, thank you.
And if you haven't signed, there's paperwork to sign tonight before you leave, Pete, or Jason or Brent, if you haven't signed the new warrants, if you could stop down into the office over the next couple days, and we'll try and get Amanda down here too to sign off on them.
Yes, Brent came in and signed them. Jason, I know you work during the day. If you could sign them, I can meet you in the evening if we need to. And then we've got Amanda. Yep, that would be great. Thank you so much.
All right, great. Thank you.